Uh, Before I go anywhere else, University of Missouri Extension Specialist. I'm headquartered in Miller County in beautiful Tuscumbia, Missouri. And Alan Freeman is going to be our presenter for today. Alan is the lead program specialist for the Missouri Industrial Hemp program, and he's going to talk about the way that the Missouri Department of Agriculture, and in fact the state of Missouri, administers the Industrial Hemp Ag program. So Alan, with that, just to keep things on a timely basis, may I invite you to get started. Before I do, I just have one person here, and that is Peggy. And Peggy, what is your name, if you may speak?
I'm sorry, I had to unmute my
That's
microphone.
all right.
Peggy Balmer.
And Peggy, did you subscribe
Yes,
just recently?
last week.
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
Baumhoer.
Okay, I will have to look that one up. Did you subscribe online as well then?
Yeah, one of our administrative staff submitted it.
Okay. Was that through Evers and Company?
Yes.
Oh, great. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'm going to let Alan go ahead. I'm going to mute all participants. And again, I am asking everyone to mute all. I'm going to ask everyone to put any questions that they have in the chat box. I'll be monitoring the chat, and at the end of our presentation, we will pose those questions back and forth as an interaction with Alan Freeman, our presenter. And with that, Alan, I'm going to mute myself and I am going to let you go.
All right, thank you, Trish. Everybody hear me all right? I'm going to take that as a thumbs up. I'm trying to get all my little features to show up so I can see what I'm doing here. So again, I'm Alan Freeman. I'm the program administrator for the Missouri Industrial Hemp Program, part of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. I'll give you a little bit of a program overview as to what's going on with the hemp program. So I'll go ahead and get started here. So to get started, the Industrial Hemp Program is comprised of 2 staff members, myself being the program administrator, and then Erin Casey Campbell is our program coordinator. Email, as always, is the best way to get a hold of us, and that's at hempprogram@mda.mo.gov. And then we also have a lot of online resources available on our website, and also link to our additional resources page that may be of use to you. The Missouri Department of Agriculture's website can be found at agriculture.mo.gov. The program website can be found by navigating to the Plants and Pests tab and selecting the Industrial Hemp Program from the drop-down list. On the Industrial Hemp Program page, you'll find a brief overview, several web links, including our Missouri State Plan and program rules, and a menu with links to the applications page, information hubs for each of our license types, and then a frequently asked questions page and an additional resources page. And we've recently updated all this information in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I believe it is. Kind of give you a little bit of a history as to where we've been and what we've done so far since I've been with the program. So there is a dynamic history going on and understand the regulatory history of the program. Many are familiar with the 2014 Farm Bill that allowed states to begin the pilot programs to research the potential for industrial hemp production in their state. In late 2018, the next iteration of the Farm Bill was signed into law. It provided guidance on how states would be required to implement a commercialized rather than research-based industrial hemp program. The 2018 Farm Bill also included information that would be further regulations or more details to come. These additional details came in the form of the interim final rule in October of 2019. Around that same time, Missouri state rules were open for public comment. In January of 2020, Missouri state rules incorporating the November public comment period and requirements from the recent interim final rule became effective, allowing for the program to begin accepting and approving applications. During the 2020 growing season, USDA reviewed and ultimately approved Missouri state plan, allowing Missouri's producers to continue under existing state regulations. Another element that is important to understand is what the Missouri Industrial Hemp Program regulates and what it does not. The Missouri Department of Agriculture's Industrial Hemp Program regulates only viable industrial hemp. Viable meaning anything capable of living or growing. This includes your seeds, those that are capable of living or germination, and then a bit more obviously the living plants such as seedlings, clones, or cuttings, or plants at other stages of growth. In order to be defined as industrial hemp, the plants must be sampled prior to harvest and be tested at or below the 0.3% total THC level. Because the program only regulates viable industrial hemp, the program therefore does not regulate non-viable industrial hemp. This includes harvested materials that cannot live or grow, such as redhead fiber or seedless floral material. Essentially, once the crop is tested below the THC threshold and is no longer viable, it is considered a publicly marketable product and is no longer regulated by the program. Therefore, the program does not specifically offer a processor, extractor, handler, or transporter license that you find in other states. Although the Industrial Hemp Program's regulatory authority ends at viability, the product themselves may be regulated by other programs, agencies, or entities depending on their intended use. For example, products for human consumption may be regulated by the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services and/or the Food and Drug Administration. So understanding that regulatory authority, the MDA Industrial Hemp Program issues two main license types. They're the producer registration and the agricultural hemp propulsion seed permit. By law, in order for an individual to lawfully possess or obtain viable hemp in Missouri, they must have one of these two registrations. There's actually a third type in Missouri for the Certified Industrial Hemp Sampler Program, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. First, the producer registration is required to produce any industrial hemp in Missouri. This includes any production type and at any scale, from backyard farmers to large-scale commercial production. All production must be done on a registered site. The second type is the Agriculture Hemp Propulsion Seed Permit. This permit is required to sell, distribute, or offer for sale any viable hemp or industrial hemp. This is essentially just a sales permit. An important distinction, however, is the term viable. Remember, viable means anything that's capable of living or growing. So if someone wants to sell seed or transplants, this is a required permit. If someone wants to sell fiber stalks, it is not required because those hemp fiber stalks are not capable of living or growing. The type of license needed for an operation depends on their operations plans, but many people in our program have both of these types of licenses. For example, if you want to grow and sell propagules, such as clones or seedlings, you will need a producer registration to grow them and an agriculture hemp propulsion seed permit to sell them. And on one of our web pages, we have a PDF document that kind of gives you a path as to which license type may be required. Once you've decided which type of or types of licenses your operation requires, you can find the application forms and additional information on the applications tab as shown in previous slides. In order to apply, you'll need to complete the application form or forms, complete a background check, submit a map of the proposed location, and include an application fee of $750, which is also due annually. The background check is required for anyone who has executive control over the operation. Those with controlled substances related felony convictions in the last 10 years cannot be approved for a producer registration. The background check process is started online, but the fingerprinting is done in person. More details are available on the applications tab. The application forms are available to download online, but must be mailed in. There are no online payment options at this time. There is no application window or submission deadline. You may apply at any time. There's no limit on the number of applications, number of licenses issued, either statewide or by county, and there's no minimum or maximum of the size operation. When evaluating locations for production, there are a few elements to consider. Once approved, you can produce anywhere within your registered property or parcel, except that you cannot produce within a residential structure. This includes even temporary production like starting seedlings. The program does not have any security requirements such as fencing, cameras, or signage, but you are welcome to include those measures if you see fit. The program also does not have any zoning or setback limits such as required spacing from churches or schools. However, you should check with your local city or county officials to ensure you are in compliance with any regulations specific to your area. After you are approved, you must continue to stay in communication with the department, maintain records, and submit reports. More of this is coming up next. Industrial Hemp Program license information is public information. The program posts an approved operations list on our website, which includes license numbers, individual business name, depending on how you applied, and the business mailing address. This posted address may or may not be the physical grow location, depending on how you completed the application. Additional information, including contact information, is available through Missouri Sunshine requests. As a producer, you may receive communications from suppliers, laboratories, buyers, and others. Missouri's registered producers can purchase seed or propagals such as clones or seedlings from any Missouri permit holder, any supplier with an applicable industrial hemp license in another state or territory, or from a supplier approved by USDA for international import. They have more information available on the USDA website. Missouri does not have an approved varieties list or require certified seed. However, you should ensure that you are doing your due diligence when selecting suppliers and varieties. Once your producer registration is approved, you may begin planting. You do not have to plant, but if you do not, you will need to submit a no plant notification by August 1st. Instructions are available on the Registered Producers tab of the program website. If you do plant, you must report the planting to both the Missouri Department of Agriculture and to the Farm Service Agency, also referred to as FSA. These are separate agencies and separate reports. The MDA Planning Report form and how-to guide is available in the Registered Producers tab of the program website. The planning report was previously known as the Lot ID form. Details about FSA reporting are available from your local USDA office. An office locator website is linked from the Registered Producers website as well. In addition to planting reports, there are a few additional reports to complete. First, the lot report, which keeps notes on each crop for sampling, testing, and harvesting. This must be maintained throughout the season, but is not directly submitted unless requested. This will be reviewed upon inspection. For permit holders, there's the distribution and sales report. This is a record of sales or distribution of viable hemp, so only things like seeds or clones. This is not required for non-viable sales. Finally, as each season wraps up, all producers and permit holders must submit an annual report, one for each license that they hold. This annual report is a basic summary of your activities throughout the year. Instructions are provided each fall. And all license holders must maintain all records for 3 years, including these reports and more, as a requirement of your license. These records and reports that you are required to maintain will be reviewed upon request or inspection. Program staff will inspect and audit a minimum of 1/3 of license holders per year, equating to each license being inspected at least once per 3 years. These type of inspections are randomly selected and an appointment is scheduled, usually 1 to 2 weeks in advance. At these inspections, staff will conduct a crop inspection and an audit of all records, including from previous year's crops. There are a limited number of pesticide products available for use on industrial hemp. As of December 2020, the Environmental Protection Agency had approved 49 products, most being biopesticides. All products in the channels of trade in Missouri must be approved by EPA and registered by the Missouri Department of Agriculture. You can use the link provided here to check out the status of individual products. Shortly before publishing this presentation, the University of Missouri Extension cross-referenced the EPA list and MDA registrations and created a list of approved products. As time goes on and additional products are approved by the EPA and registrations may expire, ensure pesticide compliance by double-checking your desired product is approved for use on industrial hemp in Missouri. Once your crop approaches harvest, you must have it sampled for compliance. Each lot, which is a group of plants of the same variety or strain grown in a continuous area, must be sampled and tested separately. Each of those samples is comprised of several individual cuttings from a random selection of many plants to form a representative composite sample. Once this compliance sample is collected, harvest of all plants within that lot can begin immediately, but must be completed within the next 15 days. If there are any plants remaining after the 15th day, the remaining plants must be redefined as a new lot and be resampled and tested separately. These compliance samples must be collected by a third party known as a certified industrial hemp sampler. These individuals are hired by producers just like any other hired service and are not employees, representatives, inspectors, or contractors of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. Certified samplers can be producers themselves, but they cannot collect samples for themselves, their employer, or any registration in which they are a key participant, such as having executive control or a financial stake. In order to become certified, an individual must take a training course, pass the MDA Industrial Hemp Sampler exam with a score of at least 80%, and submit an application and fee. A list of these certified samplers and their contact information is available on the program website. Registered producers can select any testing laboratory in any state that meets the requirements. The requirements include that they are either DEA registered or ISO 17025 accredited. Additionally, registered producers are required to select a laboratory that meets the USDA reporting and testing requirements. As Missouri is operating under a state plan, the laboratory chosen must meet these federal requirements. In Missouri, compliance is determined based on total THC, specifically 0.3% of total THC. Total THC is a combination of two compounds, delta-9 THC and THCA. One method of obtaining this figure is to calculate the potential total THC. This is done by measuring delta-9 and THCA separately, then adding 87.7% of the THCA measurement and the full delta-9 measurement. This calculation accounts for the conversion rate of THCA into delta-9. The other method for the laboratory is to actually convert the THCA into delta-9 rather than calculating the potential. This is a process called decarboxylation and is essentially heating the sample to induce the real-life conversion. After that process, the decarboxylated delta-9 THC is measured and considered the total THC measurement. An additional element of compliance considerations is the measurement of uncertainty, or MU. This is a lab-calculated figure that is similar to a margin of error and will vary by lab. The measurement of uncertainty can be critical to the compliance of a closed test. Shown here in Lot A1, the total THC measurement is actually above the 0.3% threshold. In this case, it's about a 0.35% or so. However, the measurement of uncertainty here looks to be about 0.06%, creating a range of 0.29 to 0.41%. This range that was created now contains the 0.3% threshold. Therefore, it is a passing or compliant lot, even though the actual measurement is above the limit. In the same way, Lot A2 is compliant. This actual measurement for total THC was already below the 0.3% threshold. So even though the range created does go above the threshold, it remains a compliant lot. Finally, Lot A3 is our non-compliant lot. The total THC measurement was well above the limit, and even though the range created by the measurement of uncertainty gets it closer to 0.3% limit, it remains non-compliant. So if a test shows the range contains or is below the 0.3% total THC threshold, it is a compliant lot. The producer then has 30 days to submit a copy of their test results to the department, or they can have the lab send them to us directly. However, the producer is ultimately responsible for ensuring the department receives the results within the allotted time frame. Once the crop is harvested or no longer capable of living or growing, it is no longer regulated by the Missouri Department of Agriculture and Industrial Hemp Program, and they may enter commerce. Of course, it is totally free for all after that point, as the products may be regulated depending on the use, but it is not under the authority of the Missouri Department of Agriculture's Industrial Hemp Program anymore. On the other side of the coin, if the test shows the crop is not compliant, sometimes referred to as a hot crop, the producer must act a bit quicker. They now have 3 business days to submit the test results to the department. Next, they can request for the lab to retest the remaining portion of the sample the laboratory already has if they believe the results were made in error. If the lab cannot for any reason, or that retest also comes back hot, the destruction process will be initiated. There is no post-harvest sampling permitted. If a crop tests hot or is otherwise out of compliance, the final step is an order of destruction issued by the department. This order will come as a certified letter outlining details and next steps. Producer is then responsible for ensuring destruction is completed by an approved method within 15 days. On site, traditional farm practices are common methods such as disking, plowing, tilling, brush hogging, or burning, if allowed. No matter the method, the entire crop must be rendered unusable and non-retrievable. After destruction is complete, the Missouri State Highway Patrol must certify the destruction is completed and sufficient. Appropriate contact information is provided in the order of destruction. Although the certification may be delegated to a local office, producers must utilize the Missouri State Highway Patrol channel to arrange the certification appointment. After these steps, producers will submit a copy of the destruction report back to the Department of Agriculture. Additional details and many additional resources are available on the program website. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the Missouri Industrial Hemp Program at hempprogram@mda.mo.gov.
Thank you, Alan. That was a very efficient and very good explanation of the Industrial Hemp Program. Now, participants, we're going to open this up for questions. And what I would request is that you pose your questions in the chat, if that's at all possible. I've got some folks here who are participating whose names I do not recognize. Dennis Ragsdale, let's see. I don't have you on the list, Dennis. Can I ask if you registered recently? And I'll unmute you. You may post it in the chat if you'd like. In fact, what I think I would ask is, yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay, yes, I registered this morning.
All right, thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
that.
No problem.
All right. Now, folks, go ahead and pose your questions to Alan if you share them with me. And I'm going to get you started, Alan, if that's okay, because I have a few questions of my own. Can you tell me, if I grow a hemp crop and I want to hire a sampler, do you have any idea how much that would cost or how much they regularly charge?
We don't require producers to, or at least certified samplers, let us know how much that is. We've heard a range of costs on that, but a lot of it depends on the individual certified sampler. I think you've got a certified sampler coming on in the next couple of days. They may be able to answer that question a little bit better. I think we've heard a range from anywhere from $50 to $250, but it depends on what those services are. So it's like any other crop advisor or crop service that you're hiring out.
All right, thank you. And yes, David Middleton is a certified sampler and he is speaking tomorrow. So we'll look forward to maybe posing that question to David as well. So that'll be good. You mentioned the labs. Are there certified labs, if that is the correct term, in the state of Missouri that are testing, that are doing hemp testing, industrial hemp testing?
That's a great question. I guess I am unmuted. I was muted myself there.
Yeah,
Sorry about
we
that.
can hear you.
So we aren't aware of any labs in Missouri right now that are testing. Again, they have to meet the DEA registration or the ISO 17025 requirement. We've had a couple of labs reach out to us and ask about those requirements, so there may be some additional this next year. I think Lincoln University had been talking about it, but I know with everything in the last year, there's been some challenges there. So that may be a good question for Babu to address later on. If I think he's going to be on another day.
Yes, Dr. Valiodon is also speaking tomorrow. He's with the Lincoln Hemp Institute. So that will be good. We'll talk to them about where they're at in developing a testing lab. And ballpark, do you have any idea how much it costs per sample to get tested?
Again, that kind of depends on the laboratory and then what the level of testing you're doing, because there's several different lab panels that some producers are doing. We've seen as low as $65 up to $150 per sample. But again, it depends on the laboratory. We encourage producers to find a laboratory that meets their business requirements and then meets the ISO accredited or the DEA registration requirement.
Do they have to let the Missouri Department of Agriculture know in advance what lab they are using?
No.
Okay, so that's not a requirement of their licensing or their permit.
No, they just need to use one of the laboratories that meets that requirement, and then we'll cross-reference it when we get a certificate of analysis. Generally, a laboratory will provide either their ISO accreditation information on their website, or if they're registered with DEA.
Okay, that's very, very helpful. Here's a question for you. Is there another agency in Missouri that regulates CBD products? Or does the Missouri Department of Agriculture regulate those products?
So CBD would fall under a non-viable component, so it's not going to be regulated by our agency. We always encourage folks to contact the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services if they're planning on selling CBD extracts or any floral material, to make sure that they're within the guidance of Department of Health and Senior Services or FDA.
Very helpful. So the Department of Health and Human Services in the state, Health and Senior Services, right?
Correct.
In the state of Missouri, or the Food and Drug Administration nationally or federally, as the term might be.
Correct. And there may be some limitations on use of hemp products for animal feeds and pet foods. And that's something that our Bureau of Feed Control would be able to help you out more with in our agency then.
That's very helpful. You had mentioned that there's an order of destruction that might be issued if a crop has tested above the legal limit for THC. Who issues that order?
It comes out of my office.
That comes out of your office. Is that something that is shared by telephone or by certified mail, or does the sheriff's department knock on the door? Just wondering.
No, our process is we try to communicate with producers as much as possible. So once we have that certificate of analysis from the producer that shows it's a non-compliant lot, usually they get a phone call or an email. Generally, it's a phone call. I like to talk to them face-to-face or via phone anyhow, and let them know what the options are from that point forward. Usually, a lot of our producers have been having a retest done when it comes down to that aspect, but we've had a few that are like, yep, we're done with this. Let's just move on to the next phase. And then we'll send a letter, certified mail, that gives all the instructions on proper method for disposal and how to contact Missouri State Highway Patrol, along with a what's called a destruction report. It's a triplicate form that a section we fill out with their producer information. They fill out information about the crop and their destruction method, and then Missouri State Highway Patrol will sign off on in order to close that out, and then they'll reissue that back to us.
Okay. That's very interesting. Can you give us an idea of how many orders of destruction were issued last year or in the 2020 crop year?
And for 2020, about 9% of our planted acres had an order of restriction issued for noncompliance.
Okay. And that's maybe lower than some of the figures I'd heard from other states.
I believe,
that-
yeah, last fall, I believe Iowa said they were about 11 or 13%. I can't remember what the final number was from them. Nationally, they were anticipating anywhere from 20 to 30% of crops. I think part of that goes to the due diligence producers were doing to make sure they were getting crops that were more likely to stay compliant, or at least paying close attention to their test results.
And we'll hear a little bit about that from Dr. Valiodan tomorrow, because he's going to talk about genetics as a factor in, for example, THC production and also the environment. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that tomorrow. We do have a question. Can crops that are ordered to be destroyed be sent to an industrial processor or other products such as fiber?
Not at this time. It's a good question. But until federal law or federal rule changes to allow for remediation, or even state law to allow for remediation, that's not an option. Once it's above a 0.3%, it's no longer considered industrial hemp. It's considered a controlled substance then at that point, and must be destroyed then.
Okay. And I know that some producers have indicated they feel that you can remediate by taking the THC down. But apparently that's not an option at this time.
Not at this time, no.
And here's another question. My understanding is federal law requires less than 1% total THC. Will Missouri change their requirement to be in compliance with federal?
Currently, federal law says 0.3% on decarboxylation. Federal rule then allows for a measurement of uncertainty to be attached to that. So the 1% total THC has not been written in rule that I'm aware of at this time. And then we have been keeping up with the final federal rule that's supposed to be coming out in the next month or so, but we haven't received any information that that's going to change at this time.
As someone who has worked in the federal government, I can tell you that that federal rule will come out when it's good and ready, and no sooner. A couple of the links for those who are participating today on the constant comment email that you received today has got a link to Missouri, and it has a link to the MU Hemp Institute, and it has a link to the MU Hemp page, and it has a link to the Missouri Department of Agriculture page. Tomorrow's email, and I'll send one out every day this week, will also include links to the United States Department of Agriculture hemp page, and also to the YouTube recording of today's presentation. And only those of you who are registered will receive that link to the YouTube recording. But if you ask for permission, I will likely share that with you for other purposes, but you do need to ask first. Who else has questions for Alan today? And we knew that Alan was doing about a half-hour presentation, so don't feel bad if you feel like you didn't get your whole hour and a half worth of industrial hemp. I guarantee that we will go hour and a half tomorrow and every bit of that Wednesday, just to give you a little idea of what we're doing tomorrow. Our first presenter is Dr. Mba Planning, and he's going to talk about, again, the genetics and environmental studies that Lincoln University is doing as research at the Lincoln Industrial Hemp Institute. David Middleton is the certified tester, and he's also a small farm specialist for Lincoln University. He has also going to talk a little bit about the law enforcement component that applies to individuals who transport industrial hemp. And he wants to make sure that everybody who transports industrial hemp has got their paperwork on hand and ready so that they don't have an issue with the highway patrol or with some other law enforcement that might stop them. We have another question. Has there been any participation in the fiber and seed sector of the industrial program in Missouri? Is there sufficient processing facilities? Well, I'm glad you asked, because Rick Selby works for the United Cooperative, and they are currently developing 2 fiber processors for Tiger Fiber. On Thursday, Thursday is the Tiger Fiber Day, and they're going to talk about where they're at in developing these facilities and how to go ahead and participate. And we've got another presenter, another processor, Hempire. And Connor, if you would like to unmute, you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you guys do. I'm happy to share that with the audience here, if you can. If you can't, I'll unmute you. Let's see here. I don't know if I can, but let's see. If you can you unmute me? Let's see. Let's see if I can. I think you're good now, right? If you could go ahead and speak. Or not. Sorry, trying. I can relate. You know, Zoom is a beautiful thing. It really, really is. Until it isn't. I told somebody that in theory they can come in tomorrow and join a Zoom meeting. And it's only a theory until it works. That's all right. If you'd like to go ahead and post some information in the chat, I'll be happy to share it with the audience as well. Does anybody have other questions or comments? Mindy or Will, do you have any questions that we can bring out in this group? Well, we're getting there, and I think Connor's going to put some information in the chat. Feel free, folks, to share this program with others. I left the registration open through Thursday night because I know how this kind of goes for extension programs. I'll get a call the next day and they'll want to know if I have a recording and if they can still participate in the program. Feel free to share that. That's my purpose in creating these recordings. Michelle says, Alan, are there any changes from last year's program as we move into the new season in a few months? What changes might a producer expect, or will we largely be doing the same process this year as last year?
That's a fantastic question, actually. So our state plan was approved in September with no regulatory requirement changes, so from USDA. So that was a positive thing. So we anticipate 2021 being very similar to 2020. We are making some adjustments on our reporting deadlines and dates in order to, based on lessons learned over this past year, and to help. I think I mentioned the lot ID form. We're renaming that to the planting report because it was getting kind of confusing having a lot ID form and a lot report. So those are the major changes. Aaron's been working on some, we call them best management practices list, kind of a one pager that we'll send out throughout the season as a reminder as to, hey, if you've planted, now's a good time to submit a planting report if you're at that point. So try to have a few more regular reminders as we go on throughout the course of the year this year. And if anything changes on the federal level, we'll let our producers know as soon as we can.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read Connor's comments about Hempire. He says, we have a facility in the Kansas City area that is able to process about 5 tons per hour. And I assume this is fiber. And we plan on manufacturing products at a co-located facility. We are currently forming contracts with farmers for the upcoming harvest season. If you would like more info, contact me at connorchoice@gmail.com. And I will be happy to share that with our group in tomorrow's, the email that goes out tomorrow morning. That says what you are producing and the contact information for processing. Alan, you and I talked a little bit about the hemp benchmarks. Connor or anyone, are you using those hemp benchmarks for pricing? Are you entering into forward contracts? For fiber is the question I would like to ask, and are they priced contracts? And it's kind of a complicated question, I know. He says, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. So the contracts that you're entering into with individuals, are they for tonnage and are they pre-priced? In other words, are you allowing folks to lock in the price of the fiber? Or do you go off the market price? And I just don't know if that's the way that folks are doing things these days. I'm an old warehouse examiner who is used to looking at grain on the marketplace. And so when we always have forward pricing, we have delayed pricing, we have that kind of things. It's usually sometimes it's based on the price at delivery. Well, we can always follow through with that question. Who else has questions for Alan or for others who are participating at this time?
Trish, while I'm thinking about it, just so everybody remembers, as our email address is hempprogram@mda.mo.gov. If you're a current producer or thinking about producing, it's always best to drop us a line and ask questions, even throughout the growing season. We'd rather have the questions taken care of and addressed up front rather than waiting until after the fact where there might be a problem coming around. So we try to respond to folks pretty quickly.
Is that 2 P's, HEMP, PROGRAM?
Correct.
All right. By all means, know before you grow. That is a
Absolutely.
very important question. That's very important. Ask questions first. Don't ask for forgiveness later. That usually doesn't work in this particular situation. I might do that for certain things, but not likely to do that in this instance, because it is I would call it a very regulated crop at this time. So does anyone else have questions? And if not, I will go ahead and I'll give you a couple more minutes. We'll leave it open. Let's just take about a 5-minute break. And at the end of 5 minutes, I'll come back. If there are more questions, we'll pose those. Otherwise, we'll let everybody get back to their busy day. Here's the answer from Connor. Based on tonnage, pre-priced and graded. So that's the fiber and herd purchase contracts. He says they're based on tonnage, they are pre-priced, and they are graded. We plan on being generous with grading with our initial run. We want to work with farmers. With how new everything is, we are open to negotiation and very open to getting newer farmers involved. I'm interested in talking to you offline about grading and how that works. I'm guessing it's not through who would the grading entity be? I'm just curious. He says fiber quality is key, which it absolutely would be. Okay. Well, I'll be interested in hearing more about that. Maybe you can drop me a note and I can share that with our group as we progress this week. Anyway, we'll give it a couple more minutes, folks, and then I think we'll say see you tomorrow. I should do a little poll. Maybe I can do it. I don't know if I can or not, but I'll try. All right, let's see here. Participants, place oh, I mean, So while we're kind of waiting just to finalize this, who all is a producer now? And you can indicate in your reactions with a thumbs up. Somewhere by your name, it will come up. On the bottom, you can use the reactions. And my next question also is, what did you learn? Did you learn something today? And was it valuable? Is there more that we can do? And of course, I'll probably ask that question tomorrow as well. I don't know how to put a poll in here. You got to be smarter than the computer. All right. Peggy says, okay, good. And the next question is, what will you use? And then the final question is, what could we have done better? And we might hold that question to the end, but if there's something that we could do better for tomorrow, just please, we want to make this a good experience for everyone. All right. Great initial run, provide copies of the slides. Yes. I hear you. Okay. So we do have some good suggestions for tomorrow. I don't know that I can provide them in advance, but I know there are some that I will be able to. And again, you will each receive access to the video and the recording so that you can go back, follow back up, and take care of that. And Alan, that's something I would ask you to do if you don't mind just sending me a PDF of your presentation.
Should be able to do that.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll share that with the group. So that'll be helpful. All right. So far, so good. Well, does anybody have any last comments? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you very, very much. And thanks again. Let's all clap for Alan. Here we are. Clap, 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 clap. That's me clapping for you, Alan. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trish. Appreciate the opportunity today.
My pleasure. And I'll look forward to tomorrow and seeing all of you again. So thank you. And again, if you missed something, do not worry. I will be providing, again, the full YouTube conversion recording of this conversation. So thank you. All right, I'm not going to close it. I'm just going to let you guys close it. So that way, if anybody has any last comments, they can feel free to do so. So thank you. That was good information. Connor, appreciate having you there as well. And thanks again to Brownfield Ag and to Mindy Ward for providing some press coverage. All right. All is well. We're getting there. Thank you. Thanks again, Alan. Lance, did you have anything that you're still here? Is there anything that you would like to just have this private conversation about before you check out? Since you're here. All right. No, ma'am, just messaging Connor. Okay. Yeah, thanks for reminding me to save the chat. I'm going to do that. And again, I will also be sharing these, his contact information and our contact information in my next edition of the Constant Contact Industrial Hemp. So, all right, guys. Hey, Alan, thanks a lot.
Hey, no problem. Thanks a lot for your time today.
Well, ditto. All right. See ya.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.